You're now tuned into the fourth season of Atypical Voices in Our Time, the official podcast of Chemistry Productions, a media education company. Let's get it started.
That's AVIOT.
Hey, what's going on, y'all? It is the AVIOT podcast. Hope all of y'all are doing well. Me and Jay Random are here to entertain you all, educate you all about what's going on in the world today. I am your gracious co-host, Jay Stokes. What's going on, Jay Random?
Hello.
Chilling, man. Just trying to figure out the hell I'm doing with this computer. That's all.
Yeah.
I'm hitting all these buttons.
Hitting all the buttons. A lot of buttons.
Oh, well.
It's all good, though. So I want to start, every time I do the show, it's always someone going down the street. You hear the cops and everything outside?
Nope. I only hear it. Nope. I don't even hear it. Even when you say it, I don't hear it.
Yeah, I don't live in the hood, y'all. It's just a busy street. I live on a main road. So that's why you hear cops and fire trucks all the time going up and down the street. Anyways, I wanted to start today's episode with speaking on this current administration. Whoop-de-doo, right? Surprise, surprise.
Yeah, let's get it.
This whole tariff situation, that seems to be the new word nowadays. Tariff. And you see that this current administration, the U.S. presidential administration, the White House, has hiked up tariffs on China. I think there's a 34% tax, 34% tax on imports from China. For the European Union, it's a 20% hike up in tax. Vietnam got 46%. India got 26%. Nigeria got 15%. Yeah, there's a lot of tariffs going on, hiking up all these prices. And as I'm reading about this, I think the idea is that by hiking up these tariff prices, it's going to deter Americans from buying the products that come from these countries because the prices of these products will go up. But my thing is, it's not as simple as that.
Correct.
What are your thoughts on the whole situation?
I think it's stupid. Why do I think it's stupid? Because it's tariffs, right? So I think tariffs are never a good thing, right? Because tariffs are designed to force these companies to make the product in the U.S. Well, just like with anything else, it's not as simple as, okay, you either make this in the U.S. or I'm going to tax you, and within a year, it's going to be produced in the U.S. It's not like that. You got to buy land. You got to, it's a lot of thought into bringing it over here. And then also, we charge more. So if they bring it over to America, we're going to be, the price is going to go up, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what's the logic in that? Like, so if I get it from Taiwan, I'm only going to pay $2 versus if I get it in the U.S., I'm going to pay $14. Like, no, I want to get it from Taiwan. It's the same thing.
Correct.
It's going to be the same thing. It's just going to be made in the U.S. So now I got to pay, if it's $2 in Taiwan, I got to pay, let's say $12. I'm not going, now I got to pay $10 extra. Well, am I getting $10 extra in my raise and my bonuses? So it's kind of like it's going to cost a lot to get these manufacturers to come over to the United States, build a complex and produce it here. It's not going to be as simple as they think it is. And then on top of that, allegedly what they're saying now, and I'm hearing this from economists, and I don't know if you're going to talk about this. You probably will. You heard about where those numbers came from?
They had like a math equation that they used in order to determine this.
Yes. Totally wrong.
Oh, no.
Totally wrong.
A word?
Totally wrong. They said Chat GPT came up with that.
Oh, shoot.
Yeah. So basically what they did is they took a number that was, so basically, say for instance, I think one of the countries is 67%.
Yes.
So you're thinking, okay, so they tax everything coming from the US 67% is a lie. It's a lie. It's not even 67%. It's more like 12%. The math is totally wrong.
Yeah, it said, according to this,
did it.
I'm looking at an NPR article. It said, according to this formula, a 67% tax on those Chinese products should correct a trade imbalance. That's what they were claiming.
Yeah, but that's not the case because it's not 67%. So his numbers are wrong. Say, for instance, the Inhabitat, right? So what's that? The McDonald? What's that island in Australia? That's
On New Zealand?
Nobody lives there. Just penguins.
Oh, I was gonna get into that next. I was gonna get into that one.
Yeah, but I'm
Next.
just saying. So how could penguins? So the penguins are charging the
Yes,
U.S.
Heard Island
tariffs?
and McDonald Islands.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. So clearly, that right there should tell you this is Chat GPT at its worst, AI at its worst. But AI is as smart as the person who actually put the algorithm in there.
correct.
So
You're
you
right.
can't really blame if somebody don't know math. Then this is the equation you get. But so what they're saying, the economists are saying that all those numbers that we see are wrong. Meaning the numbers, the column that says this is what the U.S. is being taxed is wrong, totally wrong. There
Mhm.
is a bad equation that came up with that number.
What do you think of that whole strategy in terms of hiking up prices? Because from what I was reading in an NPR article is that they're trying to hike up prices on certain products that deter Americans from buying certain products.
Yeah, so um, Americans. So what's the alternative?
That's a good
He didn't
point.
think about that, did he? Because okay, cool. So now my just throw it out. My avocado that was once $2.99 a pound, now $7.99 a pound. Well, people still want avocado, so they're gonna buy it for $7.99. And guess who pays for it? Us.
Damn.
That's why tariffs are stupid. Tariffs are taxes
Yeah.
on us.
Yeah,
The
I think
consumer.
I
We
think
pay
the
it.
assumption is that people will stop buying these items. That's a huge assumption because even though people are strongly inconvenienced, some might still buy it.
That's correct.
Of course, they're gonna still buy it. Just like people still gonna buy cars. They're gonna be pissed off that these cars are too expensive. But remember, in 2020, people were buying cars that were 10,000, 15,000 above the MSRP. So, I mean, people were doing it in 2020. Don't think they're going to do it now? And then, so at the end of the day, we, the consumer, pays for it. So I'm tired of everybody in that administration playing in our face, telling us that this is a tax that the other country pays. No, this is a tax that we pay. Because the other company, what they're going to do, the other country, what they're going to do, they're going to say, all right, cool, you want to charge us 49%? I'm just going to increase it by 49%. Guess who pays for it when something gets increased?
We do.
The only company so far I saw did the right thing so far is Ford. So what Ford is doing is because of the tariffs, they're giving all customers the employee discount. So they're hoping that employee discount can offset the cost of that car that's going to be more expensive now. Because a lot of Ford, you think Ford is building a lot of their cars in the U.S. Yeah, well, parts plays a part too. It's not just the car. It could
You're
be,
right.
it could be it could be a steering wheel. It could be the seat. Whatever is not being manufactured in the U.S., it needs to be it needs to be exported from somewhere else. Then we have to pay that tax on it. So I like how Ford is actually trying to offset it by giving everybody the employee discount. And, it's not going to be forever.
No.
It's not for all the cars, but I mean, it's for probably their, like you're not going to get an employee discount on a Ford Lightning 150. You're not going to get that, but you probably get it for an Explorer. You probably get it for a Taurus, So, but these tariffs also did something bad today, besides the stock market. Stellantis, that's one of the major. I think that's the number 3 car manufacturer.
Mhm.
They laid off 900 people because the car that is being made in the U.S. had parts coming from somewhere else. So they're like, nah, we're going to just lay off 900 people and see what else happens. So, and the president is playing golf now, so he could care less. I'm
Well,
sorry, I overtalk. My bad.
let's move on. Speaking of the president and grievances that many may have towards him, history was made recently when Senator Cory Booker of New Jersey stood on the Senate floor disrupting normal Senate proceedings and proceeded to give the longest speech in Senate history. I believe it was 25 hours and 4 minutes, criticizing the current presidential administration and also expressing how America needs to move forward. What are your thoughts on his speech?
I didn't hear it.
Wow.
No snippets at all?
No snippets at all.
But I know who does have the power. The people of the United States of America. The power of the people is greater than the people in power. It is time to heed the words of the man I began this whole thing with, John Lewis. I beg folks to take his example of his early days where he made himself determined to show his love for his country at a time the country didn't love him, to love this country so much, to be such a patriot that he endured beatings savagely on the Edmund Pettus Bridge, at lunch counters, on freedom rides. He said he had to do something. He would not normalize a moment like this. He would not just go along with business as usual. He wouldn't know how to solve it. But there's one thing that he would do that I hope we all can do, that I think I did a little bit of tonight. He said for us to go out and cause some good trouble.
Thanks, son.
Nah, to be honest with you, I'm never gonna lie. Certain things I'm in tune to, but I mean, I knew what he was trying to do. He was, he was doing a filibuster, right? The more he talked.
No. Everyone keeps on saying, and that's the thing I need to correct.
Okay,
once and for all, this was not a
no
filibuster,
right?
No.
But the reason why he was talking, because no bills could be passed until he finished talking, right?
It was disrupting normal Senate proceedings, so maybe if they were working on that,
I thought that's what you call a filibuster.
No, a filibuster is when a bill is already in motion and they're about to pass it. A person is speaking in order to stall that bill from passing.
That's not what he did?
No.
Because I swear, once he got finished, a bill was passed, or they're trying to pass a bill. So,
yeah, I mean, that could be coincidental. What I will say is that from what I've read, they said it's kind of like a filibuster in that he was disrupting normal proceedings, but a filibuster specifically is in opposition to a bill that's being passed. Cory Booker is just doing this on a regular day in the Senate. It's not that something's passing and now he's trying to stall it. So they were bringing up Strom Thurmond, who was a staunch segregationist from back in the day, who was opposed to the 1957 Civil Rights Act. That was a bill that he was filibustering, and he wanted to stall that from going into play. So that is an actual filibuster.
Okay.
Yes. This was right here was a prolonged speech in order to disrupt proceedings, because you can't do anything while he's talking. You can't do anything. So
that's why they call it like a filibuster.
Correct.
Because at the end of the day, nothing was going to happen until he got finished. Correct.
Right.
I don't think President Trump could even have talked about his tariffs. That's why I'm kind of figuring, like, bro, you did it a day too early. How I done it on how I did it on the day before Liberation Day. So by the time Trump started talking about these tariffs, he could still be talking. Because
my question is this though: do people know when he's about to talk about tariffs or he's going to give a speech? Or
he's been telling us ever since April 2nd. It's going to be Liberation Day.
Oh, okay,
it's going to be the best day in America. And it's like, man, I don't know. It's just, I just think he never had an agenda, if you ask me. And it's just clearly the man's just throwing stuff up against the wall and seeing what's
Well, the thing is, every time they interview him, he's always saying, we're talking about the president of the United States, y'all. Yes. Every time they interview him, he says, today was great. This was great. This is awesome. Great for America. What it is, it's great for him. It's great for his buddies. It's great for Americans who benefit off of what he is doing.
Yes.
So he's technically not wrong. It's just that it is for a small circle of people. It's not for the majority.
Correct.
I'm not taking up for him. I'm just, you get what I'm saying. Yeah.
No. I get what you're saying. And so that's why I'm like, when you think about everything he's doing, it doesn't benefit anybody but the rich.
Correct.
Him slashing and cutting federal jobs and getting rid of programs that work. He's doing that because he needs to clear up money.
If you're listening to the AVIOT podcast on a streaming service, make sure to leave a rating and a review so we can grow our platform.
How do you clear up money? You get rid of people. It's just
the thing is, the federal government the federal government isn't taking up all that money like that. Federal jobs, they are the least of your concerns.
Smoke and mirrors. I hear what you're saying, though. Yeah, because the programs that he's taking down, they don't even move the decimal of the budget.
Yeah, you know where
about,
most of the money from the budget is going into?
Yeah, the Pentagon.
Yes, defense.
Yes. Yeah, he's taking down a bunch of 1%.
Right.
2%.
And ruining lives in the process, or at least inconveniencing them.
Correct. It's just, for me, he's treating it like a business. And we already know what he does and how his businesses end up. So it's kind of like, do we really want this to be like do we really want him to treat and run America like how he did his businesses? Because I don't really recall any business that he has left besides Mar-a-Lago.
And this is what Senator Booker was discussing in his marathon speech. What's interesting to me with this, Strom Thurmond previously held the record for the longest speech on the Senate floor. His was a filibuster. I think it was 24 hours and 18 minutes. But he did leave to use the restroom. And at portions of his speech, he was reading the encyclopedia. So it was a bunch of nonsense. What I'll say is Cory Booker literally stood for 25 hours and 4 minutes.
Damn.
He did not use the restroom for 25 hours and 4 minutes.
Nah, he had a catheter.
He did not. Well, we don't know.
He peed on himself.
Oh, no.
He did not sleep for 25 hours and 4 minutes. I know that man was exhausted. However, in an era where the accomplishments and achievements of Black people are not being recognized by this current administration, and there is a concerted effort to erase widespread knowledge of Black historical achievements, we literally witnessed Black history with Cory Booker doing the speech. That is for the world to see. That's how energy works. It moves in one direction and it's going to push back in the opposite direction. So even though there's a concerted effort to do away with the achievements of Black people, they're there in history, and Black people are magical. So they will continue to do wonderful things. They will continue to defy expectations. They will continue to make historical feats that are great, because that's Black folk for you. You can't erase that.
Nope.
I'm listening. Because, my biggest thing is what happens next.
Yeah, that's the big thing. I will say,
and that's why I'm silent. I didn't mean to be silent.
It's all good. It's all good.
Choose my word wisely. Like, okay, he did all this, but what's next? Like, I'm hearing more about AOC and Bernie Sanders moving waves right about now with what they're doing. It seemed like Cory Booker, he did it, and once he walked off the stage, it was just like, okay.
Well, part of that speech, too, he was reading letters from his constituents expressing their fears and really advocating for people in this country.
Correct.
And a lot of people feel like the Democratic Party isn't doing much to challenge this current administration. So this was him saying, I hear you, and this is me taking your grievances and expressing it for the world to see. So that is a part. Hopefully this could ignite fire in other people so that they can start mobilizing, they can start doing things. Because if you see your politicians aren't doing anything, it could be demoralizing for you if you truly believe in them. For most of us Black folk, we don't believe in our politicians because politicians ain't never had our back like that.
No.
However, for other Americans, and some Black Americans too, Black people in America, I should say, they may move when they see their politicians moving. They say, okay, well, I see my politician did something that is inspiring, so let me do something. Let me get up and vote. Let me go get my passport, because the SAVE Act is really coming into effect, or they're trying to put it into effect, where it's going to make it harder for people to vote who aren't American citizens, or if their last names don't align with the last names on their passport, all that, right? So that is a thing that more people might be mobilized to move in the right direction, to challenge the oppressive system, all of that stuff. What I will say is this too. I saw some chatter And it's really becoming an annoying piece. I talked to Travis Washington. We did a really good episode on South Africa the other day, but I might have to bring him back because this Palestine stuff, people are saying, well, Cory Booker in his speech, he didn't speak about Palestine. Then another person, I posted a video where I was speaking about what Cory Booker said, and they put a video talking about his support of Israel. Here's my thing. I've never seen a group of people who want to insert themselves in every single situations, even situations that have nothing to do with them, like the people who support Palestine. I understand what has happened to people over there has been horrible. It is a genocide. I acknowledge that. There is a time and a place for that, though. I feel that if you try and push it into every cause, you are going to create resentment as opposed to people trying to hear you out. And another issue that I have is that it seems like you're doing this mostly when it comes to Black political candidates. When Kamala was running for president, y'all pushing the Palestine stuff on her. With Jasmine Crockett, y'all talking about, oh, she doesn't support Palestine good enough. Cory Booker, he didn't mention Palestine in his marathon speech on the Senate floor. I looked up a statement from Cory Booker on his own Senate website from July 24, 2024. And he literally stated that he does not support what Benjamin Netanyahu is doing. He supports Israel because they're supposed to have an alliance with the United States, but he doesn't support what Netanyahu has been doing to Palestine. I will read a snippet from you. It says that Prime Minister Netanyahu responded to the horrific attacks on October 7th by prioritizing his own political survival over the security of Israelis and the safe return of the hostages held by Hamas, including 8 American citizens. Many other Israeli leaders were willing to step up and accept responsibility for their failures. That's one piece he said in there. He also stated that I support the state of Israel, its security, its flourishing, and its profound potential. I believe there's a deep and unbreakable bond between our two nations, a bond that should never be undermined by partisan politics here at home. He also stated that he feels for the people of Gaza and that he doesn't want any fighting to be occurring that's going to harm those individuals.
The Gaza part? Wait, he said about Gaza?
Yeah, he spoke about Gaza. He said, I believe this leadership, Netanyahu's leadership, has led to a prolonged military conflict between Israel and Hamas and horrific levels of death and suffering of civilians in Gaza. He literally says this in a statement. He has mentioned Palestine and Gaza in the past, y'all. Y'all can't keep pushing that on him constantly over and over again. Like I said, it creates resentment as opposed to people trying to help your cause. Why aren't people just as loud when it comes to speaking on Palestine, when it comes to the conservative or Republican Party? Why don't people challenge them? I do not see people challenging them the same way they challenge Democrats. I have a theory. Maybe it's because they believe more in the Democratic Party, but at the end of the day, last I checked, a lot of people that support Palestine voted for this current administration to be in power.
Right.
That is another thing too. Now I'm dominating the talk, Jay. You want to talk?
That's all good. So my thing is this, though. So first off, I have a problem with what you said, and I agree with you because last time I checked, Marco Rubio said something that was so disgusting, and I don't think he said it, and he was arrogant about it, and I don't recall any Palestinians up in arms when he basically said to a reporter, "Are you recording this? We're going to wipe it off the face of the earth." I said, damn. You remember that?
See?
The man basically said, arrogant, told the lady, "Are you recording this?" And the lady said, "But what about the innocent kids? The innocent kids and, the parents, the people over there." He was like, "Well, tell Hamas to stop." No, I think, the people in the hospitals. He's like, "Well, tell Hamas to stop hiding underneath them because that's what we're going to do. We're going to bomb them." I'm like, damn, that was so arrogant and disgusting. And I'm saying to myself, isn't that funny? this man come out and basically said, F you, we're going to take you out. No one says anything. Or no one says anything that's loud, like when, like you said again, when Cory Booker was talking, it's like, oh my God, he didn't mention anything. Well, what about the guy who did mention how he going to wipe y'all out? What you going to say to him?
That's why part of me feels that this whole
You sure that these are not... I'm sorry, say it again?
No, go ahead. Yeah, I think we're arriving to the same conclusion. Go ahead.
Yeah, sometimes I think these are plants, like...
I agree.
Bots, stars, because I need to see a face. I see what I need to do. I need to see a face. I need to see the voice matching what's coming out of that face. Because if it's just Twitter, forget it, man. Nobody care about that stuff. Because it's easy to create a bot that just starts a bunch of chaos, right? Because that's all it's doing.
And my thing is, if y'all really about that life and y'all talking about free Palestine, y'all start sending money over there. Y'all start sending food and supplies over there. Stop just saying free Palestine online and y'all not doing anything.
Not doing anything.
Ain't doing anything. But you're just causing disruption. I'll never forget when the LA fires were going on and people in the comment section over people who are suffering from the fires talking about, oh, I guess you can imagine how the Palestinian children feel. Like, come on, bro. Come on.
Time and place, man. Time and place.
Time and place. And I mean, if we're really being honest, we're over here in the States right now. I understand that we have to have international relations with people. However, we got to help what's going on at home first before we can help people abroad.
Correct.
And I believe that's what Cory Booker was trying to do. And that actually leads into something we're going to get into after our updates. So for our updates, thank you all for supporting us. We see that our YouTube channel has been growing. We thank you for your comments that you leave under our videos, whether it be TikTok, whether it be Facebook, whether it be Instagram. We appreciate the dialogue and we're continuing to grow. Chemistry Productions has also been making big strides on Threads. I think it's a pretty good place where we can have conversations with people. A lot of it's surrounding women's basketball. And I do have to make a video covering why Chemistry Productions is focusing on women's basketball a lot these days, whether it's college, Unrivaled, or the WNBA, because there is a reason for that. However, that's a story for another day. And now let's get into the topic of the day. As I said, Cory Booker was talking about things that hit hard at home. A topic that has been going around online that hits hard at home to me, and I'm sure you as well, is that there's a New York Times article going around saying at black colleges, a stubborn gender enrollment gap keeps growing. Enrollment gap keeps growing. I need to drink water, man. It feels like I got mush mouth. So basically, this article is talking about how Black male enrollment in college has been going down, down, down over the years. So much so that at certain HBCUs, you have a higher percentage of non-Black students there as opposed to Black men.
Wow.
Yeah, I heard that.
So this has led to a lot of conversation out online. And once again, the Black gender wars, which I truly believe if the CIA wanted to infiltrate us and take us out, they really could, because a lot of Black folk are too gullible.
Correct. This
is not a time to be bickering amongst one another. I thought this article did a pretty good job at explaining reasons why Black male enrollment in college is low. A lot of it has to do with systemic oppression and racism. It starts young, where you have Black boys are targeted in high schools. They are suspended. They are arrested. When they get out of high school, they're targeted by law enforcement. They're either murdered or incarcerated for crimes that they didn't commit. There is a concerted effort. You have media, where a lot of Black boys are being taught to be like the futures of the world, like the Aubreys, cornballs who do not have any personal accountability.
Mm-hmm.
You also have this red pill, incel, alt-right group of Black men. And I want to get to that in a minute, but I just want to get your thoughts on this whole Black male college enrollment being so low. What do you think about it? How do you think we can address it?
And now for a quick commercial break.
Hey guys, as you can hear, we are unapologetic in our opinions. We may be politically incorrect or possibly wrong, but don't knock us for being ourselves and saying what many are too afraid to admit out loud. Anyways, if you have any thoughts or questions about our show, email us at chemistryproductions@gmail.com. That's K3MISTRY productions@gmail.com. We'll be sure to address whatever you have to say.
Yeah, so I read that article as well. And yeah, it's alarming. It's alarming to see, but I'm not surprised. I see it in my community, 1 out of 4 will go to college out of the males that I've known. And then I think about same thing with me out of all my group of friends. I think 2 of us probably went to college. See, once again, you got to think, you got to think who went to college, who didn't. So I think a lot of times, like you said, again, it's a lot that plays into why they don't feel like college is as important as it used to be, right? A lot of men, they want to be entrepreneurs, right? So school's not going to teach you how to be an entrepreneur. You could go to the classes, take the classes, but it's either you have it or you don't, right? A lot of other black men, I think, they go to trade schools. They pick up on, because they need the money right now, so they pick up on a skill, right? What's up?
Can I interject real quick?
Yes.
Yes, in the New York Times article, they actually did say that cost was a factor in why a lot of black men aren't going to college, because they're afraid of having to pay off these loans or they can't cover the cost of college. And it's funny you mentioned trade. Of the students enrolled in North American trade schools, all right, so this data is coming from datausa.io. So I'm looking at a website. They said that 71.2% of those who are enrolled in full-time undergraduate programs for trade schools are black men.
Of course. You know why? Because they want to be their own boss. They want to work for someone. So, that plays a lot into the reason why they're not going to college. Not saying you can't go to college and be your own boss, but I think you have a better projection of a better path of being your own boss if you become an electrician, if you become a plumber, if you become a mechanic, because you can start your own business. Say for instance, not too many accountants going to school to be an accountant and coming straight out of school and starting a CPA firm. You can't do that. You just can't. So now you gotta go back to school to get your CPA, and you still can't start your CPA firm. It's a lot of roadblocks before you get to certain spots.
That is true.
But if you want to be an electrician, you get under someone, be their apprentice, get the hours you need, and before you know it, you could do that on the side. Eventually you can start your own. So I think a lot of time black males believe that a trade will get them closer to them being their own boss versus going to school. School will get you in debt.
Correct.
It'll get you in debt like nobody business, man. And a lot of times, black males, they go to school to become social workers because they want to get back to the community, but they're not getting paid a lot. But it's okay that they're not getting paid a lot because their tuition would be forgiven. And then only thing it takes is a new administration to come in and say, nope, we're not forgiving nothing, anything at all. So now you're stuck making not a lot of money and got to pay these student loans back. So it's kind of like, nah, I'm good. I'll just go and pick a trade.
I hear that. I will say also in this New York Times article, a individual named Richard Reeves, who's president of the American Institute for Boys and Men, he made a statement, a strong assertion saying, if we're serious about reducing race gaps in economic opportunity, household wealth, etc., then our attention should be squarely focused on economic outcomes for black boys and men.
Correct.
Yeah.
If you're serious, but
Yeah.
But we know they're not serious. They just want to let us know, you're not going to college.
Yeah, the thing is, too, you were speaking before about how this current U.S. presidential administration is cutting a lot of these federal jobs. Part of cutting these federal jobs, like the Department of Education, the DEI initiatives, this is going to directly impact Black boys and Black men because, number one, it's harming these HBCUs. So they're not able to fund students coming over. It's also harming other schools who are trying to reach out into local communities to make sure that Black men and boys have the opportunities to get into college, providing scholarships, providing other methods of funding them. So it all has a ripple effect. You can't on one end say, oh, we don't have a lot of Black boys and we don't have a lot of Black men in college, but then at the same time, take away the different areas that can help them get into college. Come on now.
Let me hear you say, that ain't right.
Correct. When you think about it, what you just said is so true. So it's kind of like, okay, so this article came out. What's the next step? What's the next step? You know?
Yeah.
And
My
the next
thing
step
is
and also if you're serious about it, so let's do something about it. Don't just come out with an article saying, hey, we just realized. Okay, we realize too. We're not going to school. So we know, Black men know who not going.
You know where I think the main area where we could really help with Black boys and men, really Black community issues, and they fall every time instead of standing tall. You know where we could focus on in order to help Black boys and men?
Where?
The church.
Oh my Lord.
Oh.
Instead of taking your time convincing the congregation to fund your new car or fund your new $1 million home, how about you take that money and you pour into making a scholarship fund for Black boys and men to get into school? How about you pour into mentorship programs for Black boys and men so that they're not on these incel websites? I said I was coming back to that in order to keep their mind on track. Black churches are a hub, a place where you can truly focus on Black issues and help people out, but y'all too busy trying to F people in the congregation.
Ooh.
You pastors, y'all too busy trying to steal money from your congregation, Marvin Sapp. Y'all too busy trying to finesse people out of their hard-earned earnings because you're greedy. And then you disguise it with saying this is God's will. What makes y'all any different from slave masters back in the day?
Correct. No, you're right. Can we think about it? What make them any different, right? I mean, they're still being deceitful, right?
Mm-hmm.
Everything is not really in the name of God, it's in the name of their selfishness, right? Because, I mean, let's be honest. Do you really need to have that big house? Do you really need to have that nice car? If your congregation looks, and you can tell your congregation who, when they have money and when they don't, right? Mm-hmm. So, if your congregation look like they're struggling, you may not want to pull up in a nice brand new car that they paid for, because they paid for it.
You can't pay your way into heaven, y'all. You can't pay your way into heaven, and these pastors ain't prophets.
No. I don't believe they are either, because they don't act like prophets. So yeah, I mean, I feel like you're right. These churches, these Black churches, definitely can do more. They could definitely do more, because I can imagine imagine these Black churches, the numbers of Black men that's declining. I know that has to be something too.
More women for the pastor.
Sad but true. That's what I'm saying. It's kind of like they take their power and abuse it.
Definitely. That's why I said what makes them any different from slave masters. They're one and the same to me. Right. Except you're not white. With that being said,
slave masters, boy, they definitely use the Bible to justify
facts. But listen, man, good show.
Definitely
gonna try and get this out today so our audience can hear. And yeah, let us know what y'all think. Leave comments, and we'll see y'all next time.
Peace.
So go a little something like this. That's AVIOT.